Good afternoon and welcome to the BP Marsh and Partners PLC Annual General Meeting. Throughout this recorded meeting, attendees online will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged and can be submitted at any time via the Q&A tab that's just situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Please just simply type in your questions and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, all questions will be reviewed with responses published on the Investor Meet Company platform where it is appropriate to do so. I'd now like to hand you over to Group Finance Director, John Newman. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all our shareholders and visitors to BP Marsh and Partners PLC Annual General Meeting 2022. I'd especially like to welcome all our shareholders who are viewing the meeting electronically, as well as those present in person today. I'm John Newman, the Group Finance Director, and I'll be chair of this meeting. It's now just after 12 noon and I declare the meeting formally open. I can confirm that we have a quorum and I therefore declare the meeting open as said. Practicalities, just a few things. Before turning to the formal part of the meeting, I'd just like to mention a few housekeeping points for those visitors and attending in person that the fire exits located just out the door to the right and at the end of the corridor. We do not expect there to be any fire alarm tests during the meeting. Please can you make sure those in attendance here that your phones are off or switched to silent mode. I'm pleased to inform you that the meeting here today is being recorded and live streamed, so shareholders and other stakeholders who cannot be present can view it on the company's website and on the company's profile on Investor Meet Company in due course. By way of reminder, shareholders who are viewing the AGM online will not be participating in the voting of resolutions and will hopefully have submitted their votes by proxy in advance of the meeting. I would like to introduce Dan Topping, our Chief Investment Officer. I would also like to introduce off camera, but Sinead O'Hare, our Company Secretary. So ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to start the formal proceedings of this annual general meeting. The notice of the annual general meeting, together with the explanatory notes, was posted to shareholders on the 1st of July 2022. Accordingly, the requisite notice of the meeting has been given. I propose, therefore, that with your consent, the notice of the meeting should be taken as read. Is that all agreed? Thank you. Voting procedures. To accurately reflect the views of shareholders of the company, voting today will be done by way of a poll on each of the resolutions put to the meeting. This is seen as best practice as it gives all shareholders the opportunity to participate in the decision-making of the company and have their votes recorded in proportion to the number of shares that they hold. I am appointing Equiniti Group, the company's registrar, to act as scrutineers. A summary of each resolution will be shown on the screen, together with a breakdown of proxy votes we've received thus far, before I put each resolution to the vote. As it will take some time to complete the poll procedure, the final results of the voting, including the proxy votes on each of the resolutions, will be announced through our Regulatory Information Service and published on our website as soon as reasonably practicable. You have three options for each resolution. You can vote for the proposed resolution, against the proposed resolution, or you may withhold your vote. A vote withheld is not a vote in law and will not be counted in the calculation of the proportion of the votes for or against a resolution. Will you please complete your poll card by ticking the appropriate box next to the relevant resolution, depending on how you wish to cast your vote. Once all votes have been taken on the resolutions, please would you sign the poll card and hand your completed card to Sinead O'Hare. Should you require any further assistance, our registrars or Sinead O'Hare will be happy to assist you. With your permission, ladies and gentlemen, I should like to proceed by dealing with the formal business of the meeting at the outset before moving on to any questions, unless anyone has any questions specifically relating to a resolution, in which case you can raise them now. Otherwise, we will deal with them in due course. Does anyone have any specific questions? Okay. So, resolutions. We will now proceed to vote on the resolutions, which I will formally propose to the meeting. The full text of each of the resolutions is set out in the notice of the meeting, a copy of which you will have already received. Resolutions 1 through to 8 are proposed as ordinary resolutions and require a simple majority to be passed. Resolutions 9 and 10 are proposed as special resolutions, which to be passed require a majority of 75% to vote in favour of the resolution. So, Resolution 1. The first resolution is to receive and adopt the annual report and accounts for the year ended 31st of January 2022. I now propose that the annual report and accounts for the year ended 31st of January 2022 be received and adopted, together with the report of the directors and the report of the auditors. You will see on screen that we have had 15,945,089 votes in favour and 50 votes against. As I explained to those attending, to vote, please would you tick the appropriate box on your poll card to vote for the resolution or against the resolution, or you may withhold your vote. These instructions apply to all the resolutions, and therefore these instructions won't be repeated. Thank you. So I now declare the poll closed, and the provisional results are shown on the slide, and formal results will be declared after the meeting. Resolution 2. The second resolution is to approve the report of the Remuneration Committee. I now propose to receive and approve the report of the Remuneration Committee set out on pages 34 to 37 of the company's report accounts for the financial year ended 31st of January 2022. As you can see on the slide, there were 15,933,539 proxy votes in favour, 1,018 votes against. I now declare poll closed. Resolution 3. The third item on the agenda is to approve the final dividend of 2.78 pence per ordinary share as recommended by the directors. If approved, the recommended final dividend will be payable on 29th of July 2022 to all shareholders on the register of members from the close of business on the record date of 1st July 2022. I therefore propose to approve the final dividend of 2.78 pence per ordinary share. As you can see on screen, there were 15,946,057 votes in favour on the proxy forms. And therefore, if everyone has now voted, I declare the poll closed. Resolution 4. The fourth item on the agenda is the reappointment of myself as a director of the company, and accordingly, I'll hand over to my colleague, Dan Topping, to propose this resolution.
I propose to re-elect Mr. Jonathan Newman as a director of the company. I declare the poll closed. And back to John.
Thank you. Still here, good. Resolution 5. The fifth item on the agenda is the reappointment of Mr. Pankowskani as a director of the company, and I therefore propose to re-elect Mr. Pankowskani as director of the company. As you will see on screen, there were 15,945,039 votes in favour and 100 votes against. I now declare the poll closed. Resolution 6. The sixth item on the agenda is to reappoint Rawlinson and Hunter Audit LLP until the conclusion of the next general meeting before which the accounts are laid. I therefore propose to reappoint Rawlinson and Hunter Audit LLP as auditors of the company until the conclusion of the next general meeting before which accounts are laid. As you can see on the slide, there were 15,943,268 proxy votes in favour and 1,871 votes against. I now declare the poll closed. Resolution 7, apologies. The seventh item on the agenda is to authorise the directors of the company to determine the remuneration of the auditors of the company. I therefore propose to authorise the directors to determine the remuneration of Rawlinson and Hunter Audit LLP. Will you please vote now? I can confirm, as per the proxy votes, 15,945,089 votes were in favour and 50 votes against. And I now declare the poll closed. Turning to Resolution 8, the eighth item on the agenda is the granting of authority to allow the company to allot ordinary shares or grant rights to subscribe for or to convert any security into shares in the company up to a nominal value of £1,248,548.60. I therefore propose to authorise the directors pursuant to and in accordance with Section 551 of the Companies Act 2006, otherwise known as the Act, to allot ordinary shares or grant rights to subscribe for or to convert any security into shares in the company up to a nominal amount of £1,248,548.60. As you can see on the screen, we've had 15,945,089 votes cast in favour from proxy forms and 50 votes against. I declare the poll closed. Resolution 9. The ninth item on the agenda is the granting of authority to allow the company to allot equity securities wholly for cash pursuant to the authority given in Resolution 8, which is proposed as a special resolution. I therefore propose to authorise and empower the directors, subject to the passing of Resolution 8 above, in accordance with the Companies Act, to allot equity securities either in connection with a preemptive offer or, if not, up to an aggregate nominal amount of £187,330, disregarding preemption rights, such power to expire at the conclusion of the next annual general meeting of the company or on 31st of July 2023, whichever is the earlier. Would you please vote now? I can confirm we had 15,921,106 proxy votes in favour and 23,446 votes against. I now declare the poll closed. Resolution 10. The 10th item on the agenda is the granting of authority to allow the company to buy back up to 3,746,600 of the company shares, which is proposed as a special resolution. I therefore propose to authorise the company to make market purchases of ordinary shares in the company in such manner and on such terms as the directors of the company may from time to time determine, and where such shares are held as treasury shares, the company may use them for the purposes set out in sections 727, 729 of the Act, including for the purpose of employee share schemes, provided that A, the maximum number of ordinary shares hereby authorised to be purchased is 3,746,600. B, the minimum purchase price exclusive of expenses, which may be paid for any ordinary share, is 10 pence, being the nominal value of an ordinary share. And C, the maximum purchase price shall not be more than the higher of 5% above the average range of middle market quotations for an ordinary share for the 5 business days immediately preceding the day on which the ordinary share is purchased, and the amount stipulated by Article 5.1 of the Buyback and Stabilisation Regulation 2003. And D, this authority shall expire on the conclusion of the next annual general meeting of the company following the passing of this resolution, or if earlier, the close of business on 31st of July 2023. I can confirm, as you can see on screen, there were 15,941,432 proxy votes in favour and 125 votes against. Please vote now, and I now declare the poll closed. And now we move on to the Q&As. Questions will be moderated before being sent to me as chair. This is to avoid repetition and to ensure the smooth running of the meeting. If multiple questions on the same topic are received, I may choose to provide a single answer to address member queries on the same topic. Before asking your question, please can you give your name and state whether you are a shareholder, proxy or corporate representative. If you are a proxy or corporate representative, please state your name and the name of the shareholder you are representing. First, we'll deal with those questions submitted in advance and then invite questions from the floor. So if I could hand over.
Yes, pre-submitted question 1. In the auditor's report, number 1, risk detail as well as assurance are given that valuations are professionally based and in line with common practice. The valuation of 19.2 times price to earnings appears at the high end of the range and it has followed the market value for similar businesses. This does not appear to mitigate the risk of the market as a whole, or has the market as a whole been overvalued? Is the discount varied according to the business cycle or not? Are any adjustments made to the calculation if, say, it becomes clear after the 31st of January and before completion of the report that valuations had started to fall?
Okay, shall I start on this one? I might pass over, Dan. So specifically in relation to the investment valuations, this one is, so we value our investment portfolio on a range of different metrics. based upon what might be, if it's early stage, we might value it at cost, or if there's been a recent range of investment, we might market against that, or using common multiples within the industry, for which we are fairly well rehearsed and familiar. And in specific items in relation to this, it is typical to use where there are a number of quoted investments within that area. And this is specifically linked to an average of what are considered to be comparable businesses and what they are based upon the current, or they were at 31st of January 2022. So they go up and down as the markets do. So, but in addition to that, we will take a business when we're looking at it, and we will consider whether or not we want to apply a discount to that. And we also look at specifically any kind of potentially dilutive. There might be contingent liabilities, there might be deferred consideration, there might be option schemes that might come in, and so we will also apply that. So we to come out and take liabilities into account on the balance sheet to come up with an equity valuation. In specific comment regarding in this one area, the markets have come down since, but that wouldn't affect our valuation. We actually valued this specific investment significantly lower. We just took a view. It was marked fairly similar to a recent transaction that had actually passed, where somebody come in and acquired a meaningful stake of almost 21% of the business for cash, and it's in line with that. In terms of what happens afterwards, well, if it's anything that would significantly affect our overall valuation, we would have a duty, if we felt that it had affected the portfolio, to make a regulatory announcement. In this specific instance, we don't believe that it's had the fact that the markets have dropped since 31st of January in this area, which is specifically in IFAs. We don't believe that's had an impact upon our valuation, because we were valuing it significantly below what the markets were anyway, and in line with a recent cash transaction. I hope that answers that question. Do you want to add anything further to that?
No, I think it's a very comprehensive answer, John.
No further questions at this time, unless there's any more from the room.
Okay, so we've got no further specific questions in advance. We did do a presentation with IMC only a few weeks ago, where we had a number of questions that were answered, and that's all available on the IMC website. Obviously, if anyone online at the moment has any questions, please feel free to ask them.
Yes. Tell me when to start.
Well, if we wait for any more, so in answer to that, so please could you state your name and your question?
Right. My name is Vaughan Moody, shareholder. I have quite a specific question to do with the notes in the annual report. So on one, you have note number 13 on page 88, which gives a lot of detail regarding the financial companies which you have investments. And then earlier to that, on page 79, there is note 1, which of course is the accounting regulations, and it gives information about the income of particular investments, but doesn't give any details, because IFRS 8 says you don't have to give any details if the income of that investment is less than 10% of the whole. So my obvious question would be, would yourselves be prepared to change that to say 5%, given the detail that you're already giving in page 13?
If I can refer you to the related party disclosures note on page 102, note 24, we actually provide specific detail on all the income from all of our investee companies there.
Okay, thank you very much. Final question. Obviously, with regard to the largest investment, which has changed from Nexus to Kentro, is there a point where you take the view the investment is now too large for yourselves, or are you just intending to keep going?
I think we look at all our investments from the perspective of, do management want us still involved in that investment, regardless of size or direction? And certainly with regard to Kentro, at this moment in time, clearly it's the largest on our balance sheet. Without access to external capital, you'd be looking at our balance sheet and say, how can you support their growth? But the reality of the situation with Kentro is that they've also got access to debt finance from Barings, an international asset manager, that provides them with all the access to funds that they would want. So at this stage, clearly it's a big asset on our balance sheet. It's one of our biggest investment, biggest ever investment, but a really good, strong performing investment. So at this stage, it's a hold as long as it continues to perform, deliver income and grow. We've got no reason to sell it at this stage. That's not to say that it might be sold in the near future. It could be sold, 5 or 10 years time. That's the flexibility that's afforded by BP Marsh, and certainly from management standpoint, they certainly want us still involved in the business to provide guidance and oversight, which over the last 8 or so years has transformed, alongside our investments, transformed that business.
Okay. Again, Vaughan Moody, shareholder. There are 2 investments in Singapore which appear to have very little value. Is that an issue to do with the actual market in Singapore or the individual companies?
I think both, probably. I think the Singaporean market for the underwriting agency, it's problematic in terms of regulation, in terms of whether the MAS and Monetary Authority of Singapore actually wants underwriting agencies, but it was a modest investment for us. So I would say that's more governmental issue. And on the Asia reinsurance brokers, it's a combination of factors. It hasn't performed as we'd expect. We've worked with management to try and mitigate the downside. We've also taken a very conservative approach to valuation of that investment by taking action as quickly as we can to make sure that there's no real body shocks in terms of having to revalue it down. So we have done that. But it is a challenge investment. With the rest of the portfolio, by and large, is going great guns, but there will always be 1 or 2 laggards, and I would say ARB falls into that category.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. The only thing I would add to that is, it is a risk we do, but and there are always, sort of disappointments, and the key thing is our long-term compound growth is therefore to see, and that's inclusive of everything. And yes, we have disappointments, we learn from them, we move on. It would be highly unusual to not have any. In fact, we'd probably be a bit concerned if everything was always, sort of brilliant all the time. But it's all about making sure how you act. And there have been, I think, a key point is several even of our most successful investments have had moments when things weren't always going right. And our approach, our partnering approach with our investments, our flexibility, our sort of longer term view enables us to be able to take time, a bit of patience, and help them out to achieve the best results for all concerned.
Thank you.
Okay, so unless there are any further questions, there are no questions come through online, in which case I'd like to say a warm thank you to everyone attending online, and a big thank you to everyone attending in person. Just to reiterate, we did do a full presentation on the 7th of July that is on the IMC website. That's also available on YouTube. If you search for BP Marsh & Partners PLC full year results 2022, that will come up there. We have some presentations on our website. If you have any questions pursuant after the meeting that you would like, by all means, message them in. And Brian Marsh has made a point of saying, although he's not present here today, if anyone wants to go and get in touch with him, the door is always open. We'd be happy to deal with investors that way as well. So on which point, I'd like to thank everyone for their attendance. We will tally up all of the votes, and we will be releasing that in due course after the meeting. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye.
John, that's great, and thank you very much indeed for taking the time to update those online today. Could I please ask attendees online not to close this session, as you'll now be automatically redirected for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order that the management team can better understand your views and expectations. It's only take a few moments to complete, and I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the board of BP Marsh and Partners PLC, we would like to thank you for attending today's annual general meeting. That now concludes today's session, so good afternoon to you all.